Welcome to this video on supporting literacy development with Proloquo2Go 4. I'm David.
And I'm Jennifer. We think that giving users access to core words gives them greater freedom to combine the words to create whatever they want to say. It turns out that you get the ultimate freedom to combine a small number of symbols into anything you want to say when you're able to use spelling and word prediction. Being literate gives you freedom from having to wait for someone else to give you the words you need. You can spell them for yourself. For this reason, we think working towards literacy for every person who uses AAC is extremely important. Any level of literacy is useful. We usually say that a person needs about a third grade literacy level in order to meet all his communication needs with spelling and word prediction. But even just the ability to recognize and use initial letters for familiar words is very beneficial. There are no prerequisites for working on literacy other than breathing. Anyone can benefit from literacy teaching activities. It's not in the scope of this video to go into detail on how to teach literacy skills to non-speaking people. However, what we can do is give you some ideas for how to set up Proloquo2Go to promote literacy. Something as simple as the labels on buttons can be configured to increase exposure to letters and spelling. In Proloquo2Go 4, we've changed the default position of the labels to be on top of the buttons rather than on the bottom. This means that when you put your finger over the button to select it, the symbol is covered, but the text label is shown. This helps draw attention to the text. So if I put my finger on 2, you can see my finger is blocking the symbol, but I can see the text.
2.
If you're using an older vocabulary, you may have the words on the bottom of the button rather than the top. If you'd like to change them, here's how you do it. Go to Options and Appearance and scroll down to the Button section, and you'll see a row with Label Position. You can choose below the image or above the image. So that's how you would change that. So speaking of images, it's a very common belief that adding images and symbols to text will help beginning readers learn how to read words. However, research has consistently shown that adding symbols to text actually hurts reading development. Even if you make the symbols smaller and the words larger, or put the words on top as we've suggested, beginning readers will still look at the symbol rather than the text. It is more useful for literacy development to just have text. So then why do we have symbols on buttons at all? For some words that don't have clear symbols, like the and can, or of, as you can see here on this main page, we prefer to just have the words. It's very difficult to think of a symbol for these very abstract words. For other words that have clear symbols, we don't want people to have to know how to read before they can use this vocabulary. We can let them get started with symbol support so they can communicate right away. To help them transition to literacy and get more exposure to letters and text, we recommend turning off symbols in the message window. That way, people get the advantage of symbol support when picking buttons, but can see and pay more attention to text in the message window. So let me show you how to do this. I'll create a message.
You are on that.
So you are on that. And then I go to Options. This first section here is about the message window. I go to Advanced Options, and then I go to Display, and I can say Text Only. And you can see that's a nice big text display. And I can change the font that's used. If I would like to use a nice early literacy font like Chalkboard, I can. I can also go and tap the info, and I can change this to bold if I want to, but that looks plenty bold to me, the way that it is now. Note that you can also set buttons to only display text if you want to. And here's how I would do that. I'm going to go into edit mode. Let's see, I'm going to select a few buttons here. Here are the characteristics of those buttons I can change now that I have multiple buttons selected. I can go into display, and I can change to display just the label if I want. I can go to text and I can change some things about this text. I can tap this larger button. I can make the words 20% bigger. That's as large as I can make them. I can change the color of the font. I can also change the particular font that I'm using, just as I could with the message window. So I'm going to also pick bold for this to make them just a little bit bigger. Okay. So I can do that if I would like. Once you have a message in the message window, whether it has symbols or not, this is a great time to use that text to communicate with people at a distance. Proloquo2Go lets you use the text in the message window to email, tweet, send text messages, etc., or just copy the text in the window and paste it into another app on the iPad or iPhone. This allows someone to use Proloquo2Go to write in functional ways. So I have some text here, and as soon as I have text, I'll see this button here, the share button. It's a square with an arrow coming out. If I tap it, this shows me the various choices that I have for sharing that text. These are services that you can configure in the iOS settings app. If you think that there's a service that you should have here that is not appearing, go to the iOS settings app and set it up. And here I can copy the text and paste it into another app, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to leave Proloquo2Go and go to Pages. I'm going to tap and hold. And I have now pasted this into a text document that I can use in order to do a writing assignment, send someone a card, or anything that I would like to do.
So Proloquo2Go also allows you to access the alphabet. It does that in two ways. Let me first clear this message window. And let's have a look at what the two ways are. So the first way to access the alphabet is through a grid-based keyboard. If I tap the keyboard icon at the bottom toolbar here, I'm taken to the grid-based keyboard. This is a simple alphabetically ordered keyboard with lowercase letters, but I also have access to punctuation, numbers, and uppercase letters if I want. Obviously, if I go to different grid size, this also automatically adjusts to that grid size. So if I go from 5x9 to 4x8, I definitely get bigger buttons here. This is an ordinary folder, so it's possible to add links to the folder from other folders so that you can go to this keyboard from other places in the vocabulary, or to change the font used for the buttons to chalkboard. You can also have access to a full keyboard and word prediction through the typing view. So let me switch to typing view. I tap on the views buttons in the bottom left corner and I go to typing view, and now I get a place where I can actually type some text. What do you want to do today? Question mark.
What do you want to do today?
So once I've typed this message, I have a number of things I can do. I can speak it.
What do you want to do today?
I can insert it. And actually, if I would have turned on the symbols, let's have a quick look how that would look like. So I go to my message window options and I say image and text. You actually see that it symbolizes the text. So let's go back here. Then I can clear the message. So that's not clearing the message window because there I use this button here for, but it's clearing my text view. And if I want to go back to the grid, I tap here and then choose grid. So it's possible to access the typing view more easily, and that is done by going into interactions. And in interaction, we go there, interaction, I can set the keyboard button to take me to the typing view instead of the grid keyboard. So now if I press the keyboard button, I jump directly to the typing view. There are many ways I can adjust the typing view to my individual needs. For example, I could change the font and font size. So I tap here, go to options, then I go back to appearance, and I go to the typing view options. And as you can see here, I could go for a larger font. Let's put a little bit of text in here. Let's say hello, and then go back to my options. And you can see I can change the text size here. I could also choose a different font or color. I can also adjust the word prediction. So I can go in here, and then here in prediction I can change, for example, how many suggestions are shown. I can turn learning off. I can, for example, say I don't want to learn all words but only correctly spelled words, which is great if you're dealing with someone who's still learning to spell. And I might want to have, for example, more suggestions here. And now I get more suggestions, like I get here 7 suggestions at once, depending on how much fits. Generally speaking, it is best to offer few suggestions for fast typers, as otherwise it will take them so much time to scan for the right word that it is easier to just hit another letter. For slow typers, on the other hand, having many suggestions can really help reducing the typing effort and therefore help them to have a higher sustained typing speed. You can also use alternative iOS keyboards in the typing view. AssistiveWare makes 2 keyboards that are designed for early literacy needs and for those with physical access needs. There are many other keyboards available in the App Store that can also be used instead of the standard keyboard that Apple provides. Let's have a look at the 2 keyboards that you might want to consider here. So for example, we have Keydog. Keydog is a very basic keyboard, and as you can see, it doesn't have its own word prediction. We're using the word prediction from Proloquo2Go here. It's simplified compared to Apple's keyboard. For example, to get a question mark, you don't first have to press Shift. We have a separate caps lock key, and there's also a numbers page, which is really simple, and then there are some settings in the keyboard. Another keyboard that you might want to choose is Keydog Plus. Keydog Plus adds a number of additional features, so it has word prediction, it has auto spacing, auto capitalization. Obviously, you don't want to have the prediction of Keydog and of Proloquo2Go at the same time. So I could go into the second page of Keydog and turn off my prediction here. Or alternatively, I could go to the options of Proloquo2Go and turn off prediction there. So now I have only a single prediction. If a user has fine motor or visual challenges, you may want to consider another keyboard that we designed called Keebo, as it offers many accessibility features in addition to the features of Keydog Plus. Finally, if you're finding that a user is spending a lot of time in the typing view, and what we often see is that users use the grid and then every once in a while they switch to the typing view to type one of the words that they know how to spell but that they find a little harder to find in the grid. But if you're finding that someone's really spending a lot of time in the typing view, it's really time to consider looking at Proloquo4Text. Proloquo4Text is an AEC application that we designed specifically for literate users, and it's really highly optimized for those users. So we're finding that many of the users that are using Proloquo2Go and are spending a lot of time typing, that they transition to Proloquo4Text and that it significantly increases their efficiency in communication. And Proloquo4Text, because it's not symbol based, also looks a little bit more mature, which is something many users also appreciate. Then finally, as a little bonus, something that we haven't covered in any of our other videos, I wanted to show you one more thing. So if you look at the options button here, you see a little 2, and that indicates that there are 2 news messages. If you don't like to see that, or if you're interested to find out what news we have to share, you go to options and you scroll down, and here you can see news, and here I can see there are 2 messages. And in this case they provide me some information on Proloquo2Go, which I can read, and also some information what's new in this particular version that we're using. And if I've read both messages, as you can see, the little badge is gone. We encourage you to check out the resources on our website. There are more videos, there are PDF tutorials, there's a manual, and there are other resources that you may want to take a look at.